All signs point to this. We have some huge injury updates for the New York Islanders on this episode of Islanders Digest. We're going to be talking about the time frame for all these injuries, talk about which ones are concerning for the start of the season, and also talk about some of the opportunities that these injuries can create. You never want to see a player get injured, but there are some positives that can come from an injury, and we're going to focus on that, especially considering it is the preseason, and there are some young players on the New York Islanders who are very deserving of a look in the NHL, who, when the team is healthy, as we talked about all summer, there really is no window for these players to play. But with an injury, then the door opens for them to get a look in the NHL. Right before we get into that, quickly going to remind you, if you have not already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Our goal is 2,000 subscribers before the NHL season begins. So excited to watch regular season Islanders hockey. I've been having a really fun time watching the preseason so far. While the Islanders have lost both games, the rookies have looked good, and there are going to be potentially more windows opening up for those rookies to make a major impact. We do have a preseason game for the Islanders today, which we are going to discuss after we talk about the injuries. And this Anders Lee injury is definitely one, while the time frame, it's not concerning. Again, the regular season for the NHL starts in 2 weeks, so Anders Lee is out 1 or 2 weeks with an upper body injury. He was skating. This is not too concerning in the sense where it seems like Anders Lee is going to be good to start the year. And more importantly, he is a veteran player. I will say I am a bit more concerned than some other people are, just because you want Anders Lee playing preseason games. Again, these games early on for the Islanders are going to be important. Every 2 points is going to count. And while Lee might be ready to start the season, if he's missing basically the entire preseason, what is he going to look like at the start of the year? We saw how important a hot start for Anders Lee was last year, and that's something that's a little concerning. And it's also a reminder, as we've talked all offseason, about how this healthy Islanders roster looks like a really competitive team to play against, and a team that can surprise people and make the playoffs. But these injuries are just a reminder that things can go wrong really quickly. And as much as I like the Islanders roster when it's fully healthy, 1 or 2 injuries can really derail this season, as without Anders Lee, the Islanders are instantly without scoring. Again, this is not major. He went into the boards. He actually finished that game. I'm not worried about his health. I'm just a little concerned that he is not going to be participating in the preseason, at least at a full extent, especially considering he is an older guy and a slower guy who definitely does need those reps before the season begins. Max Tsyplakov is another player who is day-to-day. Not concerned with him either, although it is notable that he has yet to play a preseason game, and he will not be playing tonight. Max Tsyplakov was a player that you were really hoping to see gain a roster spot, a higher spot in the roster this preseason, and so far, he has not been fully healthy and has not been able to do that. Hopefully everything is fine, and he is able to try to get a look in the top 6, which we know we want to see him play. We want to see that progression, and it's unfortunate so far in the preseason that he has not been able to really play up the Islanders lineup. Now, an injury that is a bit more... Actually, we're going to go to Duclair first. Duclair is also day-to-day, and this is another example of an injury that is not too serious. Again, not concerning. Also notable that it is an upper body injury, so it is not a situation where he has re-aggravated his groin. That would be very concerning. But with Duclair, he did not play very well and missed the end of the season. You definitely like to see him get off to a hot start. Not ideal that he is dealing with something not majorly concerning, but as we're going to talk about later in this video, players like Anthony Duclair and Anders Lee potentially missing a game, especially at the start of the season, because with Duclair especially, he noted that he's not feeling 100% yet. There is a small chance that he does not start the season. I don't think that's going to happen, but it is worth noting. And now, the most concerning injury news for the New York Islanders, in my opinion, and some people disagree with me. Some people do not think Varlamov is important. They think, what's the big deal? He's just a backup goalie. Backup goalies are very important in the NHL, and the fact that when Patrick Waugh was asked if Varlamov is close to rejoining the group, all he said was no. There was no time frame given. We haven't been giving any time frame for Varlamov. All we know is it was questionable that he would start the season. And at this point, with this being a no, it's a guarantee he's not going to start the season. Again, remember, Varlamov has now not played a hockey game in 10 months. He had surgery. He's been recovering this entire offseason. He has not played in a long time. So part of my concern with Varlamov now is even when he is healthy enough to play goalie, he's going to be incredibly rusty. It's going to take time to get him going. he's likely going to need a stint in the AHL, and this is a concern for me because, as I've talked about on this channel, David Rittich is not a great backup goalie. And we saw it in his first preseason game. He let off a softie. Now, he was competent after that. This is a goalie I don't have a lot of faith in. Last season, he had an 887 for the Los Angeles Kings, who, if you don't know, were infinitely better than the Islanders defensively. And I really question whether he is going to be capable of being a backup goalie that can get wins for the New York Islanders. We talked about it in the offseason. Last season, Islanders got, 4 points from backup goaltending. Every single win, every single point in the standings they got was on the back of Ilya Sorokin. And if the Islanders want any chance of making the playoffs, if they want any chance of not burning out Ilya Sorokin, this cannot be the case. And Varlamov seemed like a solution to that. And now, considering that he hasn't even started actually taking reps in the preseason, I seriously doubt there is going to be a solution to that other than Rittich at least starting the year for the Islanders. And while I'm a huge Varlamov fan, I want to see him get back to his old self. I'm understanding now it's going to take time, and what's even more concerning is when he first comes to the NHL, considering he's not getting any preseason reps, he's likely going to look a little rusty, and those points can be costly. We talked about earlier in this video, this is not an Islanders team that's going to be dominant in the regular season. If they want any chance of making the playoffs, every single game, every single overtime loss is going to count as they try to get to what I think is going to take 96 points. And this backup situation is a concern because you can't expect Ilya Sorokin to get all those points. Marcus Hogberg is also not an option. It's going to be David Rittich, and I just don't have faith in him. And let me know in the comments if you think I'm being too low on David Rittich. Now, while I'm not too excited about David Rittich getting this opportunity, likely to start the year as the Islanders' backup goalie, what I am looking forward to is potentially Ritche taking over a role if the Islanders need help due to injury. He is going to be starting in this preseason game against the New York Rangers tonight on the first line, playing with Heineman and now Palmieri. And this is a really good look to see what Ritche looks like with a player in Palmieri who is also very offensively gifted. I really did not like the way Holmstrom played in the previous game, so it's nice to get Ritche a look with a line who I think can work well. And if you look here, Pageau is also playing in this game, playing with McLean and Holmstrom. And I think this is going to be a really good opportunity for the Islanders to directly compare Calum Ritche to JG Pageau. This is a job that I think he has a legitimate chance of getting for the Islanders. Also noted, a lot of people were wondering when Jeffries and Mathieu were going to play a game. Well, the answer is they're going to be playing today. Another story that I think is worth noting is Isaiah George should be starting on defense in this game as well. Definitely want to see how he looks. I felt like last game was not a really fair game to judge defensemen, so that's something I'm looking forward to. And the rest of it, it's preseason. You want to beat the Rangers. If the Islanders lose this game, it's not a big deal. The main focus here is if Calum Ritche, Isaiah George are going to have a good game. And also, Alex Jeffries, Mathieu. There are a couple other players. Gleb Varlamov is also a player you want to see play well. But the one that I think has a real shot at making this Islanders team is Calum Ritche. And this Islanders injury updates that we've gotten so far actually give another window for Ritche making this team that we haven't really talked about on the channel. We've been assuming this was going to be a race between Pageau and Ritche, and right now it does shape out to be like that. But if you have injuries to Lee, Duclair, or any of the wings to start the season, I think there's a real chance that Calum Ritche gets the call up to fill in that role. And that's a situation where if he gets the call up and he plays well, he can hold on to that NHL position for dear life. At this point, I think if there's any injury in the top 9 for the New York Islanders, unless you're going to try to bring up Tsyplakov to a higher role, but then again, Tsyplakov has not been healthy so far the preseason either. If there are any injuries to this top 9, I think Calum Ritche is getting the call. Now, I don't think he's going to have any time playing on a 4th line role. That's not really beneficial to his development, but what we've seen so far, he is able to put up offense, and Patrick Waugh has been very high on Ritche. He said, I think we want him to play as much as possible, and we'll go from there. What he's doing right now is making our decisions so much tougher. I don't think he came here just to make impression. I think he wants to to make the team. I agree. I think what we've seen so far, Calum Ritche should make this team. It's just about whether or not he can knock somebody off their spot. Or again, while you don't want to see players injured, if a player is injured to start the season at this point, I think Calum Ritche takes that spot. And that's really exciting. While you don't want to see injuries, but if Lee needs an extra week, because the worst thing the Islanders can do is rush people back. We saw how terrible that worked with Duclair last season, where things just got worse and worse and worse. If Lee needs an extra day, or Duclair needs an extra week, or maybe he needs a day off because, his groin is not feeling as good as it used to, I think Calum Ritche deserves a chance to play in the top 9 if there's an injury. And it'll be really interesting to see how this shakes out. You never want to plan for injuries, but the truth is, this is not going to be the Islanders' forward group for the entire year. It's going to happen, and I think Calum Ritche has a real chance at making a strong impression on the Islanders if it does. But let me know what you think of these injury updates. Are you concerned with any of these? For me, Varlamov is definitely very concerning. That's one I'm watching very closely, and I think is one that's going to have a bigger impact on this season than people are anticipating. As always, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. My name is Patrick Nilan. Catch you on the next episode of Islanders Digest. Let's go Islanders.